ओ ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमु रामाय तस्मै नमः रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम् रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् हरि ओम. In the last session we had seen this shloka, very beautiful topic on how to look at things outside. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama chetyam shapanchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagad rupam tatodvayam. Any object that we take, starting from a coffee mug all the way till, a scenery or a mountain or a moon, anything that we see around us, it will have these five aspects. Asti, it is known. Bhati, it is dear. Priyam, and it has a rupa, a form and a name. There was a typo in the slide last time, so thank you for pointing it out. Rupam, I had said it has a form, and under Nama, again I had said has a form. So that was a typing mistake. It should have been has a name. So I have corrected it in this one. So this is a practice that we should strive to do. In a lot of the discussion we'll have today will tie back to this topic. Preparation for meditation. What kind of a mind can do such kind of an inquiry? Okay, that later we will see. But this was that shloka, what we had seen last time. Now Vidyaranya Swamiji wraps up this topic of creation. First he had spoken about the individual, right? From the 6th verse until the 12th verse. 13th verse onwards, he spoke about creation. And now he's wrapping up that topic here and taking us to the next topic of meditation. खवायवग्निजलोर्वीषु खवायवग्निजलोर्वीषु देवतिर्यं नरादिषु देवतिर्यं नरादिषु अभिन्ना सच्चिदानन्दाः अभिन्ना सच्चिदानन्दाः भिद्येते रूपनामनि भिद्येते रूपनामनि खवायवग्निजलोर्वीषु देवतिर्यं नरादिषु अभिन्ना सच्चिदानन्दाः भिद्येते रूपनामनि. That in Sanskrit words get attached to each other, that's why it reads like that. Khawai Vagni Jalor Vishu. It means Kha means space, Vayu, air, Agni means fire, Jala is water, Urvishu in earth. Deva Tiryang Naradishu, in Devatas. Tiryang means those who are horizontal, means all the animal bodies. Naradishu, human beings. Abhinna Satchidanandaha Bhidyete Rupanamani. In all these things, that same consciousness, which is of the nature of Satchidananda, pervades through them. The difference that is seen is only in names and forms. That Akhanda Brahma, indivisible truth, what we have, which is our own true nature, that appears as all these five elements. Now you see, in that one quarter of a sentence, or one half of a shloka, Vidyaranya Swamiji has captured so many things. By talking about elements, he is talking about all inert things that are seen around us. Five elements means what? Entire creation that we see with our eyes. Devata, Deva, Tiryang, all the species that we have in animals, all can be included in Tiryang. Naradishu, even in human beings, whatever variety we want, we can add. But the main conclusion of all these things is that the difference is only in the name and form and not in the substratum. Abhinna Satchidanandaha Bhidyete Rupanamani. So this shloka we have already elaborated before in several places. This is just a concluding verse of all those ideas. Okay, so again, we don't have to elaborate it here. Now the third question, remember there were 4 questions that the student had asked. Third question is answered by this point. What was the third question? That between Sakshi and Drushya, between Druk and Drushya, seer and the seen, first we made a difference, division between both of them. But the student asked, are these two independent things? So now after all this analysis of all this explanation, Vidyaranya Swamiji concluded that they are not two things, it is only one appearing as two. What exactly is the nature of the world? Anytime we have this question, we should go back to 13th verse of Drugdrishya Viveka. Okay, so with that we'll move on to the next question now. Last question student had was, now this is 21st shloka, 22nd shloka onwards. The answer will be given to this question. The last question student had was, can you please tell me a solution by which I can practice this knowledge and also come to own it up? Because I have heard I am Brahman, I can convince somebody also that they are not this body, they are Brahman. But when I look at myself, I am still carrying the same old notions which are there with me. How can I come to live this knowledge so that these erroneous notions are removed from my understanding? Now comes the topic of Nididhyasanam. So 22nd shloka onwards, all the shlokas until the end will talk about this topic, except for last 2-3 shlokas. Upekshanama rupe dve, upekshanama rupe dve, Satchidananda tatparah, Satchidananda tatparah, Samadhim sarvada kuryad, Samadhim sarvada kuryad, Hrudaye vathava bahihi, Hrudaye vathava bahihi, Upekshanama rupe dve, Satchidananda tatparah, Samadhim sarvada kuryad, Hrudaye vathava bahihi. Upeksha nama rupe dve. So now you will realize why the previous verse was important. Vidyaranya Swamiji is saying we should let go of nama rupa. Shifting our attention from nama rupa, one can come to do this practice of Nididhyasanam. Satchidananda tatparaha. Who is this seeker now? Who is very eager to own up his or her own nature as consciousness. Satchidananda Tatparaha, he's not happy with this Viparita Bhavanas, put it that way. He says, I have come so far, I have studied Vedanta, yet why am I having this, lapse of my previous old notions? That bothers this sadhaka, and he comes to Vedanta again to find the solution. Huh? He doesn't change the path and go somewhere else. That also can happen to a seeker. Sometimes it feels that this knowledge is not settling in me. I don't find it practical. And what do we do most of the times? Change our path, try something different. So this seeker is not like that. This seeker says, let me go again back to Shastra and see what is the solution. So that person is called as Satchidananda Tatparaha. Now next line is a very bold, instruction. Samadhim sarvada kuryad hrudaye vathava bahi. Such a seeker should do samadhi abhyasa all the time, where they should do in two places, Vidyaranya Swamiji says. One is inside, when eyes are closed, sitting in one place. And not only that, even outside, when we are walking, talking, throughout our day, Vidyaranya Swamiji says this is a kind of meditation we can do. Samadhim sarvada kuryad. You must have heard a statement by Gurudev that samadhi is not a verb, it's a noun. Means meditation is not a verb, it is a noun. So Vidyaranya Swamiji says samadhim sarvada kuryad, means one should do it. It looks like it is a verb or an action that he is telling us to do. So here we should have a very broad or big picture idea of what does the word samadhi mean. The true meaning of samadhi is sakshi, which is our nature all the time. Samadhi means that, where everything goes back into. All the thoughts, where do they rise and where do they go back? That place where it goes back is called as samadhi, which is Atma. Secondarily, the practice of doing that abhyasa is also called as samadhi. Means sitting in one place, making sure that my mind is conducive to dwell on that subtle topic. That practice secondarily is called as samadhi. Samadhi abhyasa. So Vidyaranya Swamiji here is referring to that abhyasa such that it takes us back to our true nature. But one thing is, Drigdrishya Viveka is an intermediate, or you can call an intermediate text of Vedanta. If you call it advanced text, then there are several other texts you'll have to have another category for it. That's why I called it intermediate. But what happens here is Vidyaranya Swamiji is not elaborating on the preparations needed even to come to this point. Samadhim sarvada kuryad hrudaye va athava bahihi, and he directly goes into the core of what we should think about. But it is always helpful as a sadhaka to go back to the basics. What are the steps that come before samadhi such that our samadhi abhyasa becomes more effective, more fruitful. Because until this point, you must have realized we are not lacking too much in the knowledge portion. Knowledge portion meaning we have discussed several things, right? Until 22 verses of Drigdrishya Viveka, several other texts we have studied. So it is not as much as lack of knowledge. There are some other adjustments which, if we can tweak, meditation becomes more fruitful. So introduction to meditation, we should always connect it back with where it is coming from. Huh? So in our Upanishads, it is said, one should see the truth for oneself. Atma va are drashtavyah. So one should see it. But how should one see it? Shrotavyah, mantavyah, nididhyasitavyah. Means one should first listen to Shastra very clearly, very thoroughly. So this is an unavoidable step, and meditation is not independent of this step. Means what we are meditating upon is the same thing that we have heard in Shravanam. We might have several ideas of meditation, but it is always helpful for us if we can align with Shastra understanding of meditation. Okay, so I won't go into what are those ideas. Whatever those ideas might be, we should make sure that if it is not aligning, we should try to align more and more with what Shastra is saying. So first step was Shravanam. Second was resolving all the doubts that come in Shravanam. Not everything becomes clear. And having resolved all of it, having heard thoroughly that my nature is Sakshi, which is all pervading, infinite, owning up this understanding is called as Nididhyasanam. Now, I don't have a doubt whether I am Sakshi or whether I am Ahankara. But again and again, I start feeling I am Ahankara. This is when Nididhyasanam becomes antidote. And more we appreciate, the value of this sadhana, more we will benefit from it. Because even to sit down in a place for some time, we need to appreciate this sadhana. Right? What is it going to do? Side benefits will be there. It will calm down the mind. It might improve our physical benefits. A lot of it might be there. But our main purpose is removing erroneous notions. Vedantic meditation. So for this, we will take support of Ashtanga Yoga. Now we are entering into Ashtanga Yoga portion. There are two words which, if you understand it, is helpful. One is called Anga, another is called as Angi. Anga means parts of anything. So if you take body, for example, each part of the body is called as Anga. And the one that is having all the parts put together, that is called as Angi. So my hand, my head, legs, feet, everything will be called as Anga, the parts. And everything put together, this person is called as Angi. So when we say, I have a healthy body, what we mean is my parts of the body are healthy. So they are synonymous. Okay, healthy body means healthy parts. Healthy parts means healthy body. So they are not two different things. So now, Ashtanga Yoga is like those limbs of that body. So that's why it's called eightfold limbs of yoga. And what is the main thing that we are seeking? Angi. Angi is this practice of meditation. Okay, so Angi is Samadhi Abhyasa, and Anga is all the practices which are there in Ashtanga Yoga. So 8 of them are listed. First one is called as Yama. Each we will see in to whatever extent we can. So I'm not elaborating it right now. I'm only listing the names. First is called as Yama. Second is Niyama. Third is Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana. And last one is Samadhi. You don't have to list all of it right now, because each one will come elaborately. What I just want to point out here is all the 7 which come are Anga. means they are the limbs which will lead into the Angi, which is Samadhi Abhyasa. So if I want success in meditation, I cannot directly jump into meditation. Just like if I want a healthy body, I cannot just somehow or the other expect a healthy body. I have to pay attention to all the parts. If the parts are taken care of, it automatically glides into a very successful meditation practice. And this is not to overwhelm us, because sometimes Yoga Sutras look like that. You should do this, you should do that, you should not do this, you should not do that. And when somebody reads it, you feel internally, this is not my cup of tea. It is very good to hear. Ideally, one should do this. But when it comes to me, it becomes very difficult. That is why one of the sadhanas mentioned in yoga is Ishvara Pranidhana, seeking support from Bhagavan. So whatever we want to accomplish in all these things, we should always seek Bhagavan's help, that this desire has come in me now, that I should do this practice of Samadhi Abhyasa. Bhagavan, may you give me the strength to take care of everything else in my Vyavahara. So we'll see the first one, which is called as Yama. Okay, each one we will see in steps now. So simple definition of Yama is guidance given by Patanjali Maharshi while interacting with the world outside. Okay, Yama means that when I am by myself, when I have to deal with my mind or be by myself, guidance given there is called as Niyama, the second step. So this step is Yama, which is guidance given when we are interacting with the world outside. And you'll notice that each of this point is such, if we are not having it in the right proportion, our meditation practice will have some kind of an obstacle. Okay, we should always connect it back with that practice. Then everything will make sense why Patanjali Maharshi is giving this kind of a advice. So the first step in our preparation under Yama is Ahimsa. So Yama has 5 parts. Ahimsa means not causing harm at physical level, but most importantly, not even at mental level. Causing harm out of what? Out of intense dislike. There is something that I don't like about some person, some object. Causing harm to it, not only physically is very far away, but even mentally. That is this quality of ahimsa. And if now you put it the other way, if himsa is there, now imagine what happens in meditation. And Patanjali Maharshi ji has put a lot of emphasis on ahimsa, and he says all the other 4 that are going to come will tie back into ahimsa. Other yamas that he is going to elaborate, he says it again will tie back into ahimsa. That is the most important quality that we should have. A kind of sensitiveness towards people around us. That may our words not hurt them, may our actions also not cause harm to anybody. Second Yama is Satya. Satya is Satyam, that is how it should be. That M is missing there. Direct relationship with meditation is when there is untruthfulness, when there is asatyam, that results in a very heavy mind. I mean, there is a thorn which is pricking inside, which will always take our mind away from what we want to meditate. That thought will again and again come that, oh, I hope I said this, I hope this doesn't get to that person, and what I have said was other way, I hope that person doesn't discover what I did not say. So Satyam means being straightforward in our transactions. Now you see how it falls under Yama. Okay, this is the guidance when it comes to interacting with the world outside. Whatever is there in my thought, in my speech, and in my action, they should be aligned in the same way. It gives lot of lightness of mind. Satyam by itself. Asteyam. Asteyam means disinterest in things that don't belong to me. Physical things we can understand easily. Let us say if something we come across on the street, let us say $100 bill is there. Now it doesn't belong to me, but because nobody has claimed it, doesn't mean that I should come and take it up. Disinterest in things that do not belong to me. That was just one example, but all physical things we can very well understand how this has direct connection with Nididhyasanam. There is a subtler portion also, even credit. If it doesn't belong to me, I don't have any interest in it anyway, but even if we have done something, not having too much of insistence on getting that. Because what is that we are interested in now? This person is Satchidananda Tatparaha. Upeksha Nama Rupe Dve Satchidananda Tatparaha is not Tatpara about anything else in life. Those things will come anyway because they are born out of karma. If karma is there and one has to get praise, unasked it will come. And other ways also too. Criticism, if it is there in karma, it will also come without asking. I will conclude on this point. If you all have time, I can just take 5 more minutes. I hope that is okay. Or let me hold back on that story. Let me complete this. We should not leave things halfway. Yama, if I stop in 3 out of 5, that is not a good sign. Okay. Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is moderation and alertness in our transactions. Being very, very careful of what impressions things are leaving on our mind, because they won't go just like that. It will come back again in meditation. And when I'm sitting there, I have all these thoughts, again, which is coming back. Brahmacharya. Last one is called as aparigraha. Aparigraha is understanding the difference between what is my need and what is greed. Means things which I can be okay with not having, that I should let go of. Not holding more than necessity. Now you see, these qualities will not appeal to somebody who is not interested in meditation. And they will say, what are these, impractical suggestions, all of these. But when somebody actually sits down to meditate, we will notice these are the things which will again bother that sadhaka. That is why these are anga, which will strengthen our angi, which is nididhyasanam. So each point we should dwell on it more. I am just touching at a very high level. Our Bhagwan Ved Vyasji has written elaborate commentary on each of these points in Patanjali Yoga Sutra for each of these, sadhanas. But I just mentioned the gist of it, and what is there in that box is the summary of all those, elaboration points. I will conclude with one story, about Asteyam, which Akhandananda Maharaj used to tell. He used to say that, when people, he was trying to explain this point, that what doesn't belong to us, we sometimes get fascinated by it and try to hold on to it. But later on, that same thing comes back to haunt us in a different way. So there was one disciple who used to come to Maharajji, and he used to, praise Maharajji very much. And say, Maharajji, your teachings are so great. It is so wonderful. And every day in my dream, you come and you tell me, lot of mantra, and you tell me a lot of guidance and so many things. And now because you have told me, I have started doing some sadhana also. So like this, that person used to praise. And Maharaj used to also, and he is out of his humility, he's telling us, I don't even think that it is actually in his case. He's just trying to say that to explain to us. He used to say, out of my, I don't know what, I used to also accept it. I used to say, yes, yes, very good, very good. I might have come in your dream also, and so on. Because I used to feel good about it. This person is praising me. But later on, after around a week or so, this person came back and said, Maharajji, your teacher, Udiya Baba, also had come in my dream. And he said, in the last birth, there was 10,000 rupees, which, Maharajji had taken from you. Go and ask him in this birth, he will give it back to you. Then Maharajji said, this is what happens with taking things which doesn't belong to us. This point that he was trying to make, that was that praise which was there, which we loved so much when it came, but later on that same thing came in a different form. So for a seeker of meditation, sincere seeker who is Satchidananda Tatparaha, they'll be very careful. What doesn't belong to them should not be taken, and the best way is offer it everything to Bhagavan. Janakrupa Naishthurya Mutsrujyatam, right? Naishthurya also should not be there. Means harshness should also not be there. But we should know where it all belongs to. Asteyam. Okay, that was the point. So now we will see the other things also in the next class. How much we can complete, we will try to. I'll try to be brief in those things. But more we should dwell on it on ourselves also. It is, very direct and precise remedy for getting success in meditation. So we'll pause here and take a few questions. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay, so these questions are related to the previous topic. Now that we have moved on to the next topic, it might feel, it's a different context in which these questions are being asked. This is from the topic we discussed about Jiva Jagat. Jiva Jagat or Nirmana. Oh, I think this is regarding Pramana and Nirmana, what I had discussed about. That Pramana means clear knowledge, getting knowledge about thing as it is. So meditation, what we are discussing, right, is Pramana actually. We are not trying to create anything new in meditation. It's very different kind of meditation that Vedanta will prescribe. It is not some kind of light seeing or some kind of other thing. It is clear Praman Vichara, what we have heard in Vedanta, paying attention to it so that we get clarity about that topic. So the question here is, Jiva Jagat are created by Ishvara. Is that true? Means is Jiva Jagat Nirmana? That is true in a way, in one way. Meaning Jiva and Jagat, they are Karya, and we say Ishvara is Karana. But we should be careful what kind of Karana Bhagwan is. If you have attended that retreat, what we did, Fundamentals of Vedanta, there we used a word, Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. Means this consciousness presiding over Maya Upadhi creates this entire creation, but it is not separate from creation. So it is Nimitta Karana also. It is a sentient cause, means consciousness needs to be there for creation to come about. And it is Upadana Karana also. It is a material cause. That is why that statement comes, God is not only creator, he is creation. Means all the objects that I am seeing around me is all the same Bhagwan. What we saw today also, right? Khavaya Vagni Jalor Vishu, Devatiryang Naradishu, Abhinna Satchidanandaha, Vidyete Rupanamani. The same consciousness pervades this entire creation. Actually, that shloka, it reminds me of another thing which we all chant so many times. We are very familiar with it. We just have to pay attention that it reveals this meaning. Any guesses what that shloka is? A shloka which is similar to what we saw today. Khavaya Vagni Jalor Vishu, Devatiryang Naradishu, Abhinna Satchidanandaha, Vidyete Rupanamani. Some of you might have guessed. It is Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That consciousness, Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Sacharacharam, Chara also and Achara also, that which is moving and not moving. Both of it is pervaded by this consciousness. Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We bow down again and again to our teacher who has shown us that vision to see the world in that way. Guru Stotram, lot of verses are like that, very, very deep. And it again, reminds us of this fact. So Jiva Jagat, coming back to this question, is it Nirmana? Yes, but we should understand Nirmana in what way? It is not like a pot which is created and left aside from the potter. Potter doesn't, come along with the pot. So it is Nimitta Karana also and Upadana Karana also. So now those of you who are probably attending for the first time, not very familiar with this vocabulary, either one way is to join some study group, where all these doubts and all can be clarified. We have several of them, 20 plus study groups in the Bay Area. Bhagwan's blessing is in plenty. So a lot of sadhakas are there who are like-minded, who want to discuss similar topics. Because not everybody might be familiar with this word. What is Nimitta Karana? What is Upadana Karana? You are, using all these words. So I try to explain it as much as possible, because in this text, that is not the topic. So I cannot elaborately explain it before going there. So whenever that word comes in a text, there we will elaborate it more. But still, if you have doubts and if you have not gotten an answer, feel free to ask any Sanskrit word. Don't hesitate. I might take some things for granted and use a word, assuming that, the audience already knows it. But I get a lot of questions saying that, what did you mean by this word? And I really appreciate them. Okay, so after having discussed with others, if it doesn't get clarified, feel free to ask. Is Maya also inert matter, the three gunas? Maya is anirvachaniya. Means it is indescribable. You cannot pinpoint and say it is this way or that way. But for our understanding, effect of Maya is jada. What we see around this creation, right? Tamasic aspect of Maya has become this gross world. And that grossness is inertness. So in a way, we can say that Maya is jada. But it is not physical matter. Maya by itself is not another physical entity. We should understand Maya as primordial ignorance. Avidya Rupa it is. Effect of that is all the things that we see after that. Okay. Maya is of that kind. And I also know that in some classes we might have gone a little fast because it is very dense. You know, that topic of Maya in particular, we saw that it is Avidya Rupa, Brahmashraya, Avyakta Namni, and so on. So all the recordings will be uploaded on YouTube shortly. So whoever has missed a class, or if you want to go back to certain points, you can go back. This is how we will get clarity on topics. And if you want to go back to the words from which I referred, that also you can do. So Vivek Chudamani, 108th verse, will talk about Maya Shakti. 8, 9, somewhere around that, 2, 3 verses. So that is the most precise location. We will not have any doubt what is Maya. Maya will go or not, that we are not guaranteeing. That will come only through our study of Vedanta. But just the definition of Maya, we won't get confused with what is Maya referring to. So like that we can look at it. Last one we will take. I'm confused about the role of Ahankara and Maya. It seems that due to Ahankara, we attach the sense of I to this body, thereby limiting our experience and creating joys and sorrows. Maya seems to be hiding the truth. How are these two different? It seems both give a wrong sense of I. True, Maya and Ahankara are not different, actually speaking. What we can say is, in a preliminary way, Ahankara is an expression of this ignorance, Maya Shakti. I could have stopped at the point that I don't know my nature as consciousness. But it doesn't stop there. I always identify with something else, which happens to be this Ahankara. And that part we have discussed before, huh? That disidentification does not mean non-perception. Means we should not insist on, oh, I don't want to see Ahankara anymore. The path there is to beautify this Ahankara, to make it very sattvic, and then understand that it is an appearance in consciousness, which is my true nature. So my fundamental identity is Sakshi, and transactional identity is Ahankara. Now what is happening is in my life, it is switched. Throughout my day, I think I'm Ahankara, and now and then whenever I either attend a study group or listen to some Vedanta, then this idea comes and says, I am Sakshi. There is something in me which is divine, which is unaffected. So that sometimes is the question. So both of them are same. We should not struggle too much in vocabulary, not get too caught up in words. Get precision about definition and try to see in ourselves what is happening. That is the most important part. I think that is good enough. Maya, Shakti and Ahankara. Okay, good. There are some questions about what I discussed today. All right, we'll take it up next time. Now, these questions which are coming are related to what we discussed today, meditation topic, because there was a switch in topic. Now we'll have different set of questions, which we'll take up next time. The lectures will be available shortly. They have not been made public yet. We're trying to get all of them uploaded. All our sevaks are working very diligently and hard on this. It will take some time before it gets uploaded. Hari Om, everyone. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.